In the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 3 verse 19, reading from the NIV version, it says, "For the wisdom of this world is foolishness in God's sight." Wisdom of this world is foolishness in the sight of God. The wisdom of this world puts people in a lot of debt. They say you should borrow money before you start a business. But where's your faith? Why borrow? Why put yourself in a whole bunch of debt when you haven't started the business yet? When you don't know how it's going to go? When you don't know how far it's going to go? The wisdom of this word tells you that it's okay to have sex before marriage. But what they don't tell you is that there's soul ties. What they refuse to tell you is that a baby could come out of it. And if a baby comes out of it, can you afford it? Are you mature enough to train that child? Are you responsible to take care of another human being? What they don't tell you is when you sleep with people outside wedlock, when you have sex with people outside wedlock, you're transferring stuff in the spiritual realm and in the physical realm. So therefore, you have a lot of people who are hurt. A lot of people who've got a skeleton in the wardrobe. And when they get married, they have high expectations for the bedroom because they've been doing a lot of experimenting, because the world's wisdom say you should do it before you get married, so that way you can enjoy it on the first night. The world's wisdom tell you that adoption is okay, but what they don't tell you is after a while, when you become mature, you are going to crave for your child. You want to see your child again. You want your child in your house. You want your child around you. But they tell you it's okay. And you believe it's okay because you haven't studied God's wisdom yet. And maybe you weren't mature enough to take care of that child at the time that you had it. But adoption isn't always the best thing to do. Maybe at that particular point, at that particular time it was, but in the long run, it's not. And because you did what was best at that particular time, but you didn't put the future into consideration, you get older and you realize that maybe adoption wasn't the best way to go about it. The world's wisdom will tell you that same-sex marriage is okay. But what they fail to realize is that a lot of these people have committed suicide. A lot of these people are lost in the inside. Lack of identity crisis is happening. World's wisdom will tell you that it's okay to lie on your CV to get a job, because you know deep down you're not qualified and you know what they're looking for. So you decide to lie on your CV to get the particular job, forgetting that God is able to do more than that in your life. And when you lie on a CV, now you have to keep up with that lie in the long run. Or maybe not, but you're sitting against someone that is not human, someone who's looking at you from above. The world's wisdom would say if you're looking to get an English passport or any passport from a European country, go and marry a girl who's born in Europe so that you can be entitled for the same thing. Even though you don't love the girl, even though you don't have any intentions of marrying her, you're going to force yourself, put yourself in a situation where you're not happy, put yourself in a situation where you're not loved in order to get red papers so you can be legal in the country. The world's wisdom will tell you, don't submit to your husband. You're not a slave. But what they don't tell you is, in every single company, in every job, in every home, there's a leader. Somebody has to lead. We all can't be followers. They are leaders. So when you don't submit, now you got a problem in the house. Now instead of you to have a husband, you got an extra son. Now you have to deal with all the responsibility of providing, protecting, playing mommy role, playing daddy role, because you've refused to allow the leader to lead in the home. A lot of these wisdom that I've just mentioned that belongs to the world, they don't bring peace. They don't bring peace. You might be happy for just a little while, but there's no joy. You might be broke because you're trying to use the world's wisdom. And most importantly, you might lose out on heaven. because you're following the wisdom of this world. The wisdom of this world does not allow God to do mighty and miraculous things in your life. You've restricted how you want God to work in your own life because you've decided to follow the world's wisdom. When it comes to God, when you make your request known to God, a lot of the things that we ask for, we know deep down we're not qualified. But when you walk with God wholeheartedly and you love God and you serve Him, He will give you things that you are not even qualified for. That's the God you serve. If He feels like you're not mature enough to have it, He'll train you. He'll work on you. He'll work on the inside of you. And when you are mature enough to handle it, He'll bring it to you. He'll make the people in the world bring it to you. But when you follow the world's wisdom and you get things that you are not even qualified for, at the end of the day, it boomerangs. There was a time where I was looking for a job. I think it was last year or the year before. And I said to myself, I'm not going to lie on my CV. I'm going to be truthful about the things that are on my CV. And I told God that specifically, this is the kind of job I want. Now, I knew that I wasn't really qualified for that position, but I trusted God that God would provide that kind of job for me. Now, in the midst of that, I was applying for jobs that was related to what I'd requested for. It took long before God came through. It took about 6 months before God came through. But you know what? Eventually, I got that job. I got the job, and I even got double what I would normally get if I was working anywhere else in that position. But the reason why I was able to see God do that for me and to see how mighty He is because I decided not to use the world's wisdom to get what I want. When you use the world's wisdom to get what you want, you're not at peace. You have to forever keep up with it. You have to forever lie. The lying doesn't stop. And eventually, something somewhere, the devil's going to cause something somewhere to happen that the truth will eventually be released. The world's wisdom will tell you you need to dress sexy, you need to look sexually appealing in order to attract a man. And you do all of that, and then you find out that he cheats on you with someone who is not sexually appealing as you are, or with someone who's not even as beautiful as you are. Because the world's wisdom wants people to believe that everybody wants and needs the same thing, which is not true. It's never a one size fits all. It's never a one advice helps everyone. Each situation is different. Everyone is different. Individual is different. If you want to gain wisdom, my advice is to read the book of Proverbs. Read the book of Proverbs. A lot of successful books out there, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, books like that, Think Big, Start Small, I think there's a book like that. Most of these books are all from the book of Proverbs in the Bible. They just took the scripture out and rewrite and reword the whole thing. But let me tell you what God's wisdom looks like. So if you go to the book of James chapter 3, take it from verse 17, in the NIV version. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving. There's peace. If you're doing something and there is no peace in that thing that you're doing, it is not from God. Or maybe it was from God and you messed it up. It's either one of those two things. There has to be peace in what you are doing. Another one is considerate. You have to put people into consideration as well. Imagine you trying to get papers, and because of that, I know a friend of a friend who was illegal in a country, and because he was illegal, his friend advised him that he should go and get a girl who has red papers, get her pregnant so that you can get papers. Now, that's not considerate, because you've put this girl through pregnancy that you can't even afford. You don't even have a job, not financially stable. Now you've impregnated this girl, and I'm pretty sure once he gets that red paper, he's gonna move out of the country or move out of the city or dump the girl or do something silly, and you're gonna put that girl in a very miserable state. Now, I know it's the girl's fault that she opened her legs, but where I'm really going is the world's wisdom. That advice was just foolishness, and it was not considerate at all. So anything that you're doing that is going to hurt the people around you is not from God. It's not from God. Now, there are some things that God will ask you to do, and the people around you might not agree with it. The people around you might go against it. That's different. But if you're doing something that is going to hurt people, it can't be from God. The next one is, it's submissive. God's wisdom is submissive. You don't get a job and you start cursing your manager. You start talking in a very disrespectful way to your manager. That wisdom isn't coming from God, because your manager is telling you what to do, bossing you around, being racist, not being fair, not treating you all right. So you think that if I go down to my manager and tell her what's on my mind and speak to her in a very rude way, she's going to do what I want, or she's going to amend herself. No, that's not God's wisdom. That is not God's wisdom. God's wisdom is submissive. You have to be submissive to authority. If you're in a place and you can't be submissive to the authority that is there, leave. That's the best thing to do. Leave. If you're working somewhere and you don't like your manager, leave the job. Simple as that. If you're in a church, you don't like your pastor, you're talking against your pastor, leave the church. God's wisdom is submissive. When you're married, you need to submit. Obviously, you submit to your husband, and at the same time, you're also submitting to one another, but there's got to be a captain in the ship. The two of you can be captains. So one's the leader, which is obviously your husband, and the wife is gonna follow. But at the same time, because the two of you are looking up to Christ, the two of you are still submissive to Christ, which is indirectly being submissive to one another. God's wisdom is also full of mercy, and it bears good fruit, and it's also sincere, no lies. So if whatever you're doing, whatever advice that anyone is giving you, and it doesn't have those things that I've just mentioned, it's not a godly wisdom. It's not a godly wisdom, and you need to be very careful, because the aim at the end of the day is to make it to heaven. And if you're not doing things that are not of God, then we might just lose heaven. You might not get there. And whatever we do, we should make sure that we have at the back of our minds that we want to make it to heaven. You can't be on this earth and that the world is tormenting us spiritually, physically, and then you go up there as well, and then you're going through hell. No. Seek God's wisdom. Seek God's counsel. Solomon was a man who had wisdom. God gave him wisdom because he requested it, because there was a lot of problems. For example, I'll leave the scripture on the screen. There was a woman, her child died, and because her child died, she decided to take somebody else's child and pretend it was her. And she put her dead child, she gave it to another woman and put it on her bed. And they both came to Solomon and they said, this is my child. The other woman was like, no, this is my child. She's like, no, this is my child. Then Solomon, with the wisdom that God gave him, Solomon said, okay, you know what? I'll cut this child into half. And then one can have this part and the other one can have that part. Until one of the women was like, yeah, cut it in half. Then the other one was like, no. Instead of you cutting this baby in half, I'd rather you just give it to her. And that's how Solomon knew that that was the mother. Can you see the wisdom that Solomon used there? But if it was in this day and age, you first of all have to put her into prison. He has to do all this investigation and whatever. Whereas if you had just seek God's counsel, there'll be a better way to go about it. So please seek wisdom. Read the book of Proverbs. There's a lot of wisdom there. And remember, God's wisdom has peace. There's peace in it. You have to make sure that you pursue peace. Out of everything you pursue peace. If the money you're going to take today, if I give you money and I'm going to disturb your life, I'm going to call you every day, I'm going to beat you up, just give the money back. If that money you're taking today is not giving you peace, put that thing down, because nothing can buy peace. You have to pursue it. You have to work towards it. So that's it for this video. I hope this video has blessed you. Until my next video, stay blessed and stay beautiful. Bye.